What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. So I'm really happy to be back. Looking forward to pumping out some content for you guys. For those that know, last week was a pretty tough week for me psychologically and emotionally, dealing with the memorial of my mum passing away a year Saturday just gone. So I had to deal with that, get everything out of the way, and now I'm ready, back firing. Pumped up, amped up, and just ready to go. So I took 7 trades last week, and I thought the best way to kick this week off is just to share them with you. Not my normal style or approach to trading, but definitely a style that I'll continue to adopt throughout. It's something I've traded in the past. Then I moved on to more like hyper scalping, then scalping intraday trading, using some of the lower time frames to get tighter entries, etc., etc. So I thought I'll go back to what I was comfortable with in terms of not having to manage my trades. And I managed to take 7 trades last week with a return of 10.01%, and that was from 4 winners, 3 losses. So not a bad week, to be honest with you. What was a style that I used last week? Well, it was a set and forget style. So simply taking my position, defining my stop loss, defining my take profit, defining my entry location, and then once that trade has been activated, letting the trade go with zero management. So I'll share the trades with you. The first trade that I took was on Aussie dollar, New Zealand dollar. It was a sell trend continuation. As you can clearly see, the market was failing to break above this structure for a period of time. We did have price create a level, respect that level, and then eventually price came crashing through this level, breaking and closing below. Once price pushed back into this key level, as you can see defined here by this box, I waited for price to push in, place my entry below, just slightly below the candle, and then stop loss above structure, entry below. I hit that with an instant execution. So it was almost like a sell stop, but it wasn't. It was an instant execution. And I managed to get 11 pip stop loss with a 28 pip target. And from this position, I was able to bank a very nice 4.91% profit from this trade. As you can see, price was attracted to this structural low, and as you can see, we came straight back into it, tapped it and rejected it. Now, in terms of continuations and taking more from the market, probably could have got a lot more, but I decided to just take this target as was, and as you can see, the risk reward ratio here was 2.55. So pretty decent trade. Not your conventional break and retest, but it was a trade I was confident in taking. And as long as I had my stop loss above this structure, then I was good to go. So the next trade that I took was on pound USD. It was a buying opportunity, and it was a trend continuation trade based on the high time frame analysis. As you can see here, I had a 25 pip stop loss, going for a 1 to 2 risk reward ratio. And as you can see, I was stopped out pretty quickly in this trade. Really confident about this level. Once price broke, close above, I was really confident to take this trade. I did think I survived it, as you can see here, once price came back down. And unfortunately, price just turned against me and then stopped me out for 25 pips. Took a 2% loss on this. It is what it is. We move on. But, you know, sometimes you're going to take trades and you're going to win them. Sometimes you're not, and you're just going to lose them. But what you have to understand, and this is a tip for you to really try to grasp and accept, when you're losing, cut your losses. When you're winning, let them run. And that's really what's going to separate you from the elite traders to the majority. We wasn't able to cut this one short. We took the stop loss, but it is what it is. And we move on. I continued on with the bias on this pair, as you can see here. Let's take a look at this one on pound USD. I went in for a second entry because, as you can see, I was stopped out of this trade and we still had the rejection. So I decided to go in for the trade again. As you probably can see with my stop loss size here, I was a little bit too cautious probably, but then again, I wasn't in the best frame of mind last week. Had a 40 pip stop loss here, as you can see, and I managed to bank 55 pips from this, giving me a very nice 2.75% win on this trade. Closed out anyway. I wasn't planning to stay in this trade all night long. Closed out of this trade, I do believe manually. That's why it's at 1.38 risk to reward, because I closed this one manually. So we done pretty well anyway. We managed to get back the loss. Well, let's not call it that, because we don't want to say we got back our loss, but we managed to recoup what we lost previously on this trade here when we got tapped out. Just remember, there's nothing wrong in re-entering a trade, and that's what we did here. The next trade we took was the day after, so this was on the 20th. We took a sell for a trend continuation, and we managed to bank on this trade 1.81%. Now, why did we only get 1.85%? Well, you can clearly see here I had an 85 pip stop loss. Now, it was a set and forget, so I don't feel embarrassed to show you this. I might as well just be open and honest. This was a very big stop loss, guys. And when I reanalyzed this, again, you know, I could have probably got, well, not probably, I could have got a very, or a much better entry, should I say. But anyway, by the time I got to the charts, this is how I took it and this is how I closed it. We're sitting in this trade for a very long period of time, but it just is what it is and we move on. But it was a good trade, I guess, you know, respecting previous structure highs, expecting the lower lows of these structures, breaker structures, whatever else, and we got it. Would I say this was the greatest of trades that I took last week? Absolutely not. But, you know, I could sit here and justify why I took it, and you probably would disagree. But, you know, this is just me being transparent. This is a trade I took, and I managed to take 1.81% from this trade. So, happy days. The next trade I took on the same day was EURUSD. It was a selling opportunity, and as you can see here, we got stopped out. But just like I mentioned before, just because we have a stop loss, it doesn't mean we need to see price come all the way back to this stop loss. Now, I took this entry based on this key area, expecting this to be respected. As you can see here, all the wick rejections, but price managed to penetrate this key level and push to the upside, and I thankfully was able to close this trade out at 8 pip stop loss. I wasn't confident in the trade because what I realized eventually, it was somewhere up here, guys. But what I realized is that the probable best area for me to be taking this trade was up and around here. So if price was going to come back to this level, which you can see it did, then there was no reason for me to be sitting in this trade any longer. And I closed this out at 8 pip stop loss, which was only a 0.19% loss. So very pleased with that. We let it go, cut our losses, and we moved on. The next trade we moved on to was Aussie dollar, New Zealand dollar, and this was the next day. So this was the final day on the 21st. First trade I took was a sell opportunity. As you can see here, looking for a trend continuation. We saw the break of the structure, a level created, and was looking for price to respect that level, but it didn't. Took an instant execution on this, pretty aggressive, to be honest with you, and price just continued to go against me. And again, just like I mentioned, just because you have a stop loss, it doesn't mean you need to see price come back to that stop loss. What I did, I closed this trade out at 17 pips, which was in and around this area here, and that was it for this trade. Closed out at minus 17 pips, which was a loss of 1.13% on this trade, and then I waited patiently for a better opportunity. So just like on EURUSD, you know, we took the retest of the previous structure and look what price done again. It came back to the structural highs, and it was making me think, you know what, stop loss was in a good place. If we stayed in the trade, we would have got stopped out for a full 2% loss. Should I have waited for price to come back here? Should I have done this? Should I have done that? The truth is, listen, if the market went in your direction, you would have had no complaints about the trade. But because it did, you look for a reason to complain about the trade. So, you know, let's not dwell on this too much. We took an L on it, 1.13% loss, and we moved on to our final trade. Again, probably affected just a little bit emotionally or psychologically. Don't know how I was feeling at the time. It was last week. I was going through a lot of other feelings and emotions. Stop loss here was super safe. As you can see, it was a 30 pip stop loss above structure for my final trade last week. But what I saw was price was breaking, violating these structures again. We came back to these key levels where price has been respected before, you know, where it was holding, respecting, holding, broken, created a level, respected, etc., etc. And then I went in with an instant execution, again, a super safe stop loss, 30 pips. And then I closed this manually in the evening for a 3.67% win. So a 30 pip stop loss, 55 pip exit. This was a manual exit. That's why the risk to reward ratio was only 1.83. But nonetheless, very, very happy with the week. Stress free. Didn't manage no trades. In actual fact, I deleted MT4 from my phone because I didn't want to have to be looking at it last week. Too much to deal with. And it was a super chilled week. In profit, was a very good week. So I'm wishing everybody a fantastic trading week. Just remember the tips that we mentioned here. Cut those losses short. If you feel that you're in doubt, let it go. There's always another opportunity around the corner. And sometimes just be a little bit more patient and wait for price to come back to those key levels. But anyway, as I always say, guys, if you've enjoyed this video, please smash that like button, subscribe, and until next time, take care.